We're inside the Gamecocks, the morning show built by the Barn Dough Co. and presented by our friends at Gamecock Traditions, Mike Morgan, myself, and the great Landon Powell. Getting ready for the postseason again up in Tigerville, South Carolina. Hey, bud, how are you?
I'm good. Is my camera not working?
No, it's working great. You look wonderful. Are you doing makeup today, or what's going on?
No, I just on my screen it shows my screen's black, but I see the beautiful Mike Morgan sitting there. I didn't know you were going to surprise me. Didn't know you were surprising me with Mike Morgan.
Well, I could do.
Yeah, but I was bragging about you earlier. I don't know if you're a regular listener to the show when you sneak in away from your coaching duties, but yeah, I was just talking about when you first arrived. And of course, there was there was a lot of hype and hoopla surrounding you, and but you could just tell right away you were going to be a cornerstone. I remember how fortunate we were that you didn't go after your junior year to be a part of that 04 team, which I would maintain is one of the most talented teams Carolina's ever had. But there's so many moments that you provided, and I was talking about this too. Just I learned a lot about you guys, the players, because for much of my time, I was only in my 20s. I mean, I was back in the back of the bus hanging with you guys. I wasn't in the front of the bus hanging with the coaches. They were boring. I wanted to be with the players, and you at 19, 20 years old already had like an intellectual vibe about you, your knowledge of the game. Like you could tell that one day this guy's going to be a coach. So I'm not surprised that you made it where you are. That's a long-winded way of saying I'm so happy for your success as a coach, and really enjoyed covering you for your 4 years wearing the Gamecock uniform.
I appreciate that, Mike. You know I love you, man, and it's rare in the world you have friends like Mike Morgan that you've known that long. And you know, I don't see Mike very often, but every time we get together and talk, it feels like just feels like we're right back in those days in 2002, 2003,
You know, the last time, thank you for that, and right back at you. The last time I think you and I, well, 2 times, you and I did an SEC network game together, I believe in Gainesville. I have a picture of you and me talking to Sully in like the batting cages.
we did the South Florida game together.
Okay, that one I don't even remember. Okay.
And do you remember who the coach of South Florida was?
It's Mark Kingston.
It's
Mark Kingston, yeah.
Yeah, we went down on the field like before the game and talked to Sully and to Kingston.
And to King.
That was when I just retired. I just retired from baseball, and Andrew Kiddick called me out of the blue and was like, hey, random question, but would you have any interest in doing some stuff with ESPN or SEC Network, like baseball games? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I had at that time I just started coaching at North Greenville, and I didn't really know what my full future was at that time. I thought I wanted to be a coach, but actually I might even been at Furman at that time. But yeah, I just kind of jumped into it, and I think it was maybe my 5th or 6th game they paired me with you, and I was like, this is awesome. Like,
yeah,
of anybody to be paired with, this is going to be so easy.
It was very surreal for me. There's a couple surreal moments, and I'll just share one more. And Jamie, I'll give way.
Good.
The first time that's the last time I think we spent any quality time. The first time was me calling some Brave spring training games, and it was like a reunion because I got to see Drew Meyer, I got to see Steve Pierce. I mean, just about anybody during that time frame. This was 2010 through 2014 when I was doing the games, and we had one of your games there, and just chatting with you on the field, and it was pretty awesome experience. I can't remember who you would have been with it because you wouldn't have been with the A's because they would have been in the Cactus.
I would have
League,
either
right?
been with the Astros or the Mets, probably.
Those
were my last 2 years. So I played 2012 with the Astros, but I didn't get over to spring training with the Astros until late because they traded me right before spring training ended. So it was more likely probably when I was with the Mets, which would have been 2013. That was my last year playing.
Yeah, I remember doing some games at Port St. Lucie. I did one game at Port St. Lucie where Brian Jordan was my analyst. And I get there because the Braves would put me up in Orlando for like a month, and I would stay where the players stay. And for Orlando to Port St. Lucie is like an hour and a half. The players hated that trip. Guys in spring training, they don't want to have to get on a bus for an hour and a half. We get there, and the producer's looking at me like somebody died when I got there. I was like, what's the problem? He goes, it's about your partner, Brian Jordan. I was like, what is it? He's not here. I was like, oh, he's running a little late. No, he had the dates mixed up. He's not even in the state of Florida.
Oh, gosh.
So I literally did an open, the stand-up solo, no analyst. Ralph Kiner, the legendary Ralph Kiner, sat in with me for 5 innings, which was great. John Sherholtz, Chipper Jones did some color. But anyway, old BJ never showed up for the game. You showed up on time for your TV appearances, Landon, because you're a pro and you're a professional, just like you were as a player and as you are as a coach. So
Ray Tanner time.
Time. Yeah, if you're not early, you're late.
Yep, yeah. If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time.
Hey, right. when you were with speaking of that, when you were with the Mets, didn't you and Reese play 1 year? Like,
yep.
Or
we played. So I was the last guy cut in spring training that year with the Mets. When they sent me to AAA. That was when my daughter had just passed away that offseason, and I had been in the hospital all offseason, and baseball was not a priority in my life. I had not been training or working out or doing anything. So I went to spring training, and I told Terry Collins, the manager, I was like, day one, as soon as I walked in there, like put my stuff in my locker, I walked in his office and we talked for about 15 minutes. And I told him, I'm not a Major League Baseball player right now. Like I haven't been doing the things I need to do, but he was awesome. He was like, we know, and we're going to give you all the time you need to get your body in shape and get the rust off. And so don't worry about that. Just go play. And so I stayed with him the entire spring training. And the last day of camp, they sent me to AAA, which was in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Reese Havens was one of our utility infielders there. So Reese and I had known each other, but we didn't play together in South Carolina. He was right after me. And so we were friends, but like we had never really played together. So we spent that whole season riding to the field together every day. Reese had bought like some beat up like Geo Metro car that like I don't even know what that thing was. It didn't even have a roof on it. I think he paid $1,500 for it or something like that.
Yeah.
And we were just driving to the field every day, and that was a fun season. It was also not a fun season at the same time because I was homesick and I missed my family. My wife had a lot going on with our kids, and our daughter had just passed, and that was kind of my last shot at baseball. Like I'm gonna go play one more year and see if I still love it and see if I can get back to the big leagues. And Reese and I were both in AAA, just not loving it. I had spent the previous 4 years in the big leagues, and or parts of those years in the big leagues, and to be back in AAA in Vegas, which is not a place you want to live. And it was 115 degrees every day driving to the field. I specifically remember a day that me and Reese were riding to the field, and we stopped at a stoplight. And he had his top off on this Geo Metro thing, and I'm sure we looked hilarious in there riding it, like two pro athletes riding this little tiny beater of a car. And we're sitting at this stoplight, and it was so hot, like it felt like your skin was melting. And we both just looked at each other, and we were like, "What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Why are we doing this?" And I was at that point in my career where it was like I felt the need, like every day, like I'm good. I think I've done enough. I think I've checked enough boxes as a player, and I'm kind of ready to go home, and I'm ready to be done playing. My body hurts so bad. Getting ready to play every day was like a process of pills and ointment and hot tub and just stretching. It was like it was time. And so, that was my last year playing. Reese and I both. I think we both retired at the end of that season.
Yeah, and he had battled so many injuries, and I remember all that. I remember when he bought that. I asked him. I said, "Are you bringing that home?" He's like, "No."
He's just selling. Yeah, he bought it and sold it out there. Actually, I think he might have made money on it. I think he bought it for like $1,500 and sold it for $2,000 or something crazy like that.
Sounds like remember. Him. Yeah, that sounds about right for him. Yeah. Well, it's hard to believe it's been that long, Landon. We're getting up in age, man. You still look good though. Don't worry about it.
I appreciate it.
How's Allison? How are the kids? Everybody good?
Yeah, everybody's good. My son Holden's a freshman at Greenville High. I guess he's wrapping up his freshman year. Played football and basketball. He's the quarterback on the football team and a center fielder pitcher on the baseball team. So he had a good year and had a lot of fun playing sports. My daughter Ellie is in 6th grade. And they're both good students. They're both good athletes. She's a good little soccer player. Her team just won their championship this past weekend. She scored a goal in the game. So Allie and I are doing well. We're proud of our kids. We're in a good season of life, and it's hard to complain too much. It is. We are getting old though. Which if I'm getting old, imagine what Mike Morgan was feeling.
I know.
No,
ancient.
No, but
ancient
I got a
Landon.
call yesterday from a guy from MLB.com wanting to do an interview on the Dallas Braden perfect game, getting ready for Mother's Day, and he wanted to ask some questions to me. And he told me it was the 15-year anniversary of the perfect game, and it was just like,
Whoa.
oh my! It hit me. I was like, it's been 15 years since that. Crazy.
Wow.
So, it's time's flying, man.
Can I ask one more memory lane question? Because I know we're going to get into that here and now. I get asked this question all the time. I want to get it from one of the players. Your memories, 2002, sold out Sarge, Miami Super Regional, after losing in Game 3 the previous 2 years with one win away from Omaha on the line. You were up there in Stanford for one of those. Take me through the ninth inning. What are your memories of that?
I just remember the feeling in the seventh, eighth, kind of leading into the end of that game was like, not again. Like, here we are. Like Tanner, I guess at that time Tanner had several really good teams in a row that didn't make it, and I think the storyline at the time was like, can he break through and get to Omaha? He hasn't ever been to Omaha as a head coach, and he's had these number one teams that just aren't getting there. Because the year before I got there with Balknight, Bauer, Barber, that team was supposed to go to Omaha, and then they didn't. And then my freshman year, we were supposed to go to Omaha, and we didn't. And so that was kind of the theme, I think. And I just remember thinking, like, we got to bust through right here some way, somehow. And Coach Toman got us together. He had done it many times throughout the year, but he would get a lot of the guys on the bench, and he'd rile them up. And, he called synergize. We got to synergize, boy. Bring the synergy together. And he'd get a bunch of us college guys, and he'd have us, like, stand up on the top step and, intertwine our feet and connect our arms. And, it's crazy that he could get college kids to do these things. And he would come up with some chant or some rally, and Toman was always really good with that. But we started doing that late in that game, and it just – I don't know, man, that inning, it's just like a magical inning. Coach Tanner made a couple big moves, pinch hit Dyson, which was a big move, and, told me to bunt. I haven't bunted my entire career, like, ever. The only time I'd ever been given a bunt in my entire baseball career was in a high school playoff game when I was a freshman in high school. The coach, I was a switch hitter, and my dad was making me hit left-handed no matter what against right-handed right-handed pitchers, because he was trying to develop me as a player. And I was nowhere as good left-handed hitter as I was a right-handed hitter at that stage of my career. So we're in, like, the first round of the playoffs. We're down 2, and it's late in the game, and my coach calls time. Well, actually, I think I get up to the plate. I'm hitting left-handed, and he gives me the bunt. And I like, bunt right through it. I look terrible because I've never bunted before. And I was batting cleanup. I don't know why he was giving me the bunt. But he calls time, and he comes and brings me over to the third base coach's box, have an offensive visit. And he's like, hey, listen, if you bat left-handed, we got a bunt right here. But if you want to turn around and hit right-handed, I'll let you swing. And I was like, I'll hit right-handed. I don't want to bunt, And he's like, all right, well, go right-handed. And I remember, like, walking back to home plate, looking at my dad in the crowd, thinking, is he getting ready to be mad at me right here? Like, did I go right-handed? Because he was that kind of he was a dad coach that was very tough on me. And,
oh, yeah.
So
I forgot that Ray asked you to sacrifice.
Yes, I bunted in that inning.
I forgot about that.
Anyway, so to finish the high school story, I went right-handed. I hit a 3-run homer, actually, and it was a huge moment. We took the lead. So now fast forward to my sophomore year of college, and I have not bunted or even attempted to bunt since then. So it's been 3 or 4 years since I've even tried to bunt. And he gave me the bunt sign, and I laid one down and I almost beat it out. I was really close to beating it out, but, I was not very fleet of foot, Mike. But I was out by a step, and then I think Justin Harris might have bunted right after me.
Yeah, but he was a great bunter. He's one of the best bunters I ever saw.
And he beat his out.
Yeah.
So he was safe because they didn't cover the bag. And
right.
I think that might have been right before me, and then I bunted. And then, then we had Matty Enzo, 2 pass balls, and Brian Busher at home plate, who was out by, he was out by 20 feet. And I can't believe
what is he doing?
I cannot believe the umpire had the integrity to make the right call because he was safe. He slid right under the glove. He slid right between Matty Enzo's legs. But in baseball, they call him out, 9 out of 10 times because the ball beat him by so far. Mm-hmm. And back then, there's no replay, right? But if they call him out in that moment, like, that's it, we're done. But he called him safe. That was just a crazy inning. And, they had a couple All-Americans on that team. Javi Rodriguez, Matty Enzo, the catcher, and then their closer was also an All-American. And Matty Enzo and the closer had really bad innings. And those guys had not had bad innings the entire season. And that inning, they had their worst innings of the year. And we had some big hits. Jerome Peters with a big, double to the fence. Dyson with a double. Harris with an awesome bunt. It was a great inning. And that inning changed. In my opinion, that inning had a major shift in Carolina baseball. That inning, if we lose right there and don't go to Omaha again, who knows? But the fact that we were able to break through, get to Omaha, and then make the run we did in Omaha, beating Clemson twice and getting all the way to the national championship, it really, I think, changed the trajectory of Carolina baseball and helped us launch what happened the next 10 years.
Oh, that's the understatement of our lives. When honestly, it changed everything. I asked Coach Tanner, Landon, you were last on with us on opening day, right? Wasn't it opening day?
Yeah, earlier in the season sometime. Yeah, for sure.
I think it was opening day. And I asked Coach Tanner that day, I said, do you think if it was a 3-game series that year that y'all would have won the national championship? And he goes, oh, yeah, no doubt. And I was like, really? You say that comfortably? He's like, yeah, we would have won it if it was a 3-game series. I said, well, Rawl pitched in the title game. Who was going to pitch in the second game if there was a 3-game series? He said, I don't know if we had anybody left. I was like, well, then how would you have won it? And he was like, oh, we would have won it. Oh, okay.
The whole thing that, what's crazy is when we got to Omaha, we had really good pitchers on that staff that didn't pitch in Omaha or didn't, for whatever reason, they weren't being trusted at that time because they had maybe had some bad outings. David Marchbanks. Marchbanks was available to pitch that national championship game and didn't. He went with Rawl instead because David had been struggling a little bit, I think, at that time. And, David comes back the next year and is SEC Pitcher of the Year, and we didn't start him in the national championship game. Gary Bell, another left-handed starting pitcher. Gary was available, and we didn't pitch him that game. Rawl had been really hot late in the year and had been pitching really well. And he had thrown a complete game, I think it might have been a complete game against Georgia Tech in the elimination round 2 days before or 3 days before. I think he threw a 14-pitch complete game. A 14-hit complete game,
right.
Which you don't see that ever. To give up 14 hits in a game, you're probably not still in there at the end. But I think we started Aaron Rawl
4 runs or something, wasn't it?
He pitched. Runs? He scattered them, and we won the game, and I think we scored a bunch. Yeah. But yeah, we started Rawl in 3 days rest as a true freshman in the national championship game, and we had Chris Spigner, who ended up pitching in the game, Gary Bell, David Marchbanks. So we had some veteran guys who had started plenty of games throughout the season, and Tanner went with Rawl because he was the hot hand, and we just we were an offensive led team for sure. We were winning most of our games with the bat, and we did have some great outings from Bondo and from some other guys, but we were an offensive team.
You hit 122 home runs that year. That kind of tells the story.
It's pretty good. I was hitting 300 with 15 home runs. I batted in the 8-hole.
Yeah, exactly. The footnote to all of that too. Not only was it not 2 out of 3, but compared to now they space it out more. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't have, after that second beating of Clemson, or beat down, should I say?
We'd have a day off.
You'd have a day off.
Yeah.
They don't make them play the very next, and it was a day game. It's not like you had all day at the hotel and you had to go to sleep, catch a few hours, eat breakfast, bam, back to the ballpark, because CBS used to televise the title game. and they wanted to be at a certain time. Now it is more ready-made for a team that maybe doesn't have the deepest pitching staff. So you want to talk about another factor that could have led into beating Texas. You would have had more days off for that staff, and whether it was Raw or somebody else, you would have been better equipped to line it up. But anyway,
I mean,
digress.
Texas had their All-American 15-game winner
Street.
fresh, and then they had Houston Street in the bullpen fresh.
Yeah.
So they were able to just go like their number one straight to their closer, and made it really tough on us. And we're kind of just whoever's arm's not killing them, we're running out there. Can you throw without it hurting? All right, get loose. But that's what happens when you lose that first game, which was what all 3 years that I went to Omaha with Coach Tanner. We lost that first game every year, and we always put ourselves in the losers bracket. We lost to Georgia Tech 12-0 or whatever it was. Next year, Stanford, and the last year, Cal State Florida. And we every year had to go through the losers bracket. And we always would go win a couple in the losers bracket and put ourselves back in position. But it just hurts your pitching depth so much, which is not really what we were known for.
Well, the one that still sticks with me as much as any is 04, because that team was beyond good enough to win a national championship. Loaded pitching, hitting, depth. There weren't a whole lot of weaknesses on that 04 team. And you wound up, I think, being drafted with the Windsor kid, right? And playing with him. They basically were like, let's throw his arm out. I don't care. We're going to do what we got to do to win Omaha. And they did. That would not be looked upon very kindly today, the way they used him. But if that doesn't happen, you already beat Fullerton one time in the rematch. I have no doubt you could have beaten him again. And if that team goes to the championship, it's the first national championship in 2004.
Yeah, that's one I look back, because I was drafted with Windsor and Suzuki. So
that's
both,
right.
The two best players on Cal State Florida. I mean, Justin Turner is the most well-known player on that Cal State Fullerton team, but he wasn't the best player on that team.
Right.
Justin Turner was like a 300 hitter with 7 homers or something like that at Cal State Fullerton. You would never believe he'd turn into the perennial all-star that he did. But Windsor was their guy, and he beat us twice. I mean, he single-handedly beat us both games. He threw opening game and shut us out, and then we went all the way through the losers bracket, beat them in the first game, and then had to beat them again, and they threw Windsor again, and I think he only allowed like 1 or 2 runs the second time. So, he was a really good pitcher, and I played with him in the minor leagues, and his arm wasn't the same. He actually hurt his shoulder, and it messed his career up. I think he might have still got a cup of coffee in the big leagues, if I remember correctly, but he battled shoulder injuries his whole career, and he was a tough dude. Like he pitched through a lot of pain in pro ball and stuff like that, but man, he was good in college. But yeah, I mean, all 3 of those years, I think we had really good teams. We were always missing like that one stud ace that you could just throw out there, like a Jason Windsor, a guy that you just were going to throw out there and you knew we're winning this game because of this guy. And we had good starting pitching, but we didn't have a Roth that was just going to go throw 9 and shut teams down, really. We had our stable of lefties with Bondurant and Marchbanks and Gary Bell and Matt Campbell, and we had some really good lefty arms, but and we always seemed to have a good closer. I mean, Blake Taylor was the 0-2 closer, and Hernandez did a great job in 03, and then Blackwell was the 04 guy. So we always had really good back end arms too. But South Carolina in those days didn't have that All-American starting pitching. And in all the years that I played at South Carolina, we didn't have very many pitchers make it to the major leagues.
Right.
Now you look up there and you can think, you can sit there and list 5 or 6 major league pitchers pitching right now that are South Carolina alum. When I was going through, like, Balknight didn't make it. Gronk got a cup of coffee, I guess. But, like, Barber didn't make it. Bauer didn't make it. A lot of those guys.
I think Barber might have had a cup of coffee with Arizona.
He might have, yeah.
Yeah.
Cincinnati or somebody, maybe.
I thought Arizona, but I could be wrong.
Maybe Arizona, yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Buckner got to the big leagues, was one of the pitchers that I played with that got to the big leagues, but also very short period of time.
The knuckle curve, right?
Yeah, he had an awesome curveball. He struck out, 16 against Clemson or something like
He
that
was nasty.
early in the year, and then he got hurt and didn't pitch. So we didn't really have Billy Buckner in 04 on that team. We should have. As good as we were. If we would have had him, maybe it's a different story there in Omaha. But we still made a good run. Good teams, a lot of good players.
I got to give some hugs and hand pounds to my brother Matt Campbell. You know, I thought Soup was destined for the big leagues. I mean, he had the best breaking ball I'd ever seen. You caught it. You know how good it was. And then he just ran into issues too and couldn't. Of course, he's fine now. If anybody needs a uniform, call Matt Campbell, BSN Sports.
He's doing great.
You know, he married the beautiful Charlotte Flint. But I thought, you know, when he went in the first round with KC, this guy's going to be in the big leagues. And I mean, his breaking ball, right, Landon, was as good as anybody's in the country. I mean, it was
for sure. And for sure at the college level, he had one of the best breaking balls in the country, which is why he got drafted. I mean, the thing about Soup is that he threw 90, but he didn't really locate his fastball well. Yeah. He pitched with his curveball, and he would show fastballs to get you off the curveball. But he was pitching with that curveball. Had a below-average changeup, which he'll laugh at me saying. He threw me a changeup in a scrimmage one time at South Carolina, and I hit it on the softball field, and I told him, don't ever throw that. You just need to stop throwing that pitch. But his curveball was untouchable. I mean, it was really, really good. And of all the guys that I caught in my career, I mean, I caught some really good curveballs. Ben Sheets was a guy I got to catch. You know, Gio Gonzalez had one of the best curveballs in the big leagues. But Soups was right up there with the best curveballs I ever caught. And it was a lot like Gio's. It would gain speed as it broke. Like when it would start to break down, it would pick up speed as it was breaking, it makes it that kind of power curve. And as a hitter, there's just no way to adjust and get your barrel to it. And the angle that it would come through the hitting zone, because it was so sharp, it would just be really hard to square up. So, yeah, he had a dominant curveball. So,
I got a couple of questions I want to ask you off of that real quick too. One is a catching question we'll get to in just a second. We are going to ask you about North Greenville. You are battling for a national championship this year. Don't worry, Landon. But people, of course, love hearing all this stuff. I got a chance last week to screen in spirit. I got a chance to watch the whole thing, and I don't know if you've seen the whole thing yet or not. I mean, you were fantastic in there. But of course, the highlight of all of this, while it was about Gamecock baseball, it was about Baylor Teal and Charlie Peters. Do you keep up with Charlie? Have y'all had contact over the years, or the bat?
No,
bat boy.
Not really. You know, doing that story was good because I got to reconnect a little bit, and they showed me some videos of him and heard some comments that that his parents had made or things like that. So that was really cool to kind of reconnect. But no, I when they went back to the World Series in 10, 11, 12, like I got to watch it from afar, and it was really cool to see that, that he was doing well and he was, hanging in there. And so, but no, I haven't seen the In Spirit. I was invited to the premiere, I guess, but we were playing in the conference tournament, so I couldn't go. And then they're doing another premiere here in Greenville this weekend. I'm going to try to go to it, but my son's got games this weekend, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to swing it. But I've heard from a couple teammates it was really good.
Really
so
good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I know the guys that worked on it worked really hard, and they put a lot of time into it. So it's been cool kind of watching that process over the last year or so. Yeah. I think I did the interview for it over a year ago.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember what all was said or anything, so I'm kind of excited to see it.
I can forward you the link if that makes it easier for you. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that or not.
Get him in trouble. Yeah, I guess it comes out May 14th or something, right?
Yeah, it's next week. I mean, it is so good, man. It's one of the best that's ever been done. These SEC Storieds and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's Jake Williams deserves a lot of credit. I mean, he worked
Jake
hard
did
on
an
this.
Awesome job.
Yeah. I mean,
my wife wants me to move my son's base. See, I coach my son in travel baseball, and he's like on a really good team that plays up here in Greenville, and they have games at the exact time as the premiere here in Greenville. My wife's telling me to cancel the games or move. She wants to go to the premiere. But, that's not really how I do things. Baseball takes priority. So
kind of takes priority.
It'll be on TV. I'll get to see it.
Well, the Selection Sunday is coming up this week. And, of course, y'all will be in the tournament. Belmont Abbey won the Conference Carolinas tournament this past weekend. So I guess that means that they'll host, right? There'll be a regional host.
I don't know that they'll host. going into the conference tournament, we Catawba and us were like the two schools in line to host. To be honest with you, JB, we've kind of tanked the last week or two. We've hurt ourselves. We were far and away in first place in the region, in line to host, to be the number 1 seed, and we dropped a couple games late in the year to teams that we shouldn't lose to, which is, it's baseball, it's sports. We're not, we have not made a habit of those things over the years here. When we play a team we're supposed to beat, we usually beat them. And we lost a couple games late in the season that have hurt us. That dropped us down to second place going into the regionals. Going into the conference tournament. The top 2 teams still host in your region.
Okay.
The way they do it in Division II. So we were still in line to host. And then we didn't play great at the conference tournament. We pitched really well. We did not hit. And we lost a couple 1-run ball games. So I don't know if Belmont Abbey, I think they were in 4th or 5th in the region. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that they'll jump from 4th or 5th all the way up to 1st or 2nd. I don't think they will. I do think that we will probably drop from 2nd down to 3rd or 4th. So we may have lost our host. And I just don't know who it'll be now. So they'll the conference, the SAC and the Peach Belt, the other 2 conferences in our region, they have their last games this weekend of their conference tournaments. And once that dust settles, then they'll do the selection show Sunday. We're going to be in a regional. It's just whether we're hosting or whether we're going on the road. I'm preparing my guys, their mindset to go on the road right now and go play somewhere else, which will be the first time in a long time. We've hosted 6 years in a row.
Right.
Which, of all the things I think we've accomplished in our program here at North Greenville, I think that's the most impressive thing, because it's really, really hard to host. The way they do Division II regional is totally different than Division I. It's not the best 56 teams nationally that get in. It's all based on your location and what region you're in. So we're in the Southeast region. There are 44 teams in our region, and only 2 teams host every year from that region. So you could have 8 teams. I think actually there are 7 or 8 teams from our region in the top 25 in the national polls right now. There are I think 5 or 6 of us from our region in the top 10 or the top 15. So those in Division I would be all hosts. The top 16 are going to host. So we would have 5 or 6 schools that would host if we were doing the Division I model. But because it's Division II, we're only going to have 2 teams from our region host. So it's really, really hard to host, and we've done it 6 years in a row. So maybe this year will be different. We'll do something different, go on the road, and not have to win it at home. Maybe we can dogpile on somebody else's field.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll be the case. Landon, I just have one more for you. I was referencing the accomplishments of the 2000 through 2004 era, which was the most winningest program in college baseball through 5 years. Then you can extrapolate that over a 15-year period. Program goes to the tournament 15 times, 6 Omahas, multiple SEC championships, 2 national championships. I know you're removed from it somewhat. You've got a job at hand, but it's still in your DNA. Gamecock baseball doesn't leave your DNA. As you watch, not just this year, but over X amount of years, you're not that far away from the epicenter that is Columbia and Gamecock baseball. What is your take on where the program has been? I know that's a difficult question to answer at this moment in time with the team struggling the way it is. So it's not a leading question. It's just a general question. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if I could put one word. I'm sad about it, to me. I'm sad that it's at the state it is, because I think there's so many people, players, coaches, fans, that took so much pride in that program and the building of that program. I was one of the players inside the walls that was helped building it, but Mike, you were there building it with us, and JB as a fan and covering it, you were building it. There's so many people that were invested in that program and what it became, and got to see it come from, kind of where it is right now, to seeing it get built to a national power that was, the envy in the SEC every year. Us and LSU, and that was kind of like it, right? You knew those teams were going to be at the end every year. Yeah. During our time, and now it's like, now every year the last several years, it's like, are they going to make the tournament? And that just doesn't seem like Carolina baseball to me. And I watched the game on Sunday, and the other thing that my wife was sitting right next to me, we were watching it. She goes, "Man, there's nobody there," and I was thinking the same thing. Like the stadium's empty a lot, and I remember playing at that Sarge, man. If we had a weekend series, I mean, that place is going to be packed.
Yep.
And it's hard to see it that there's not as many fans going to the ballpark and watching the games, and winning cures a lot of things. And so Coach Tanner and what he did and the amount of winning that he did is what drove the fans to the ballpark and what got them inspired to come root on the team. So they got to figure it out some way, somehow. Got to start winning again. I mean, I still believe in the program. It's they have the best fan base in the country, and they care about baseball. They know baseball. You're in the Southeast with a place you definitely can recruit. Got great facilities and a great university. So I think they can turn it back around. It's just you gotta go get the right players. I mean, as a coach, I can tell you there are coaches out there that know tremendous amounts about baseball. I mean, it's not an acumen issue. It's you have to hit on the right recruits. You gotta get lucky and get a couple of the right guys, and that definitely plays into it. And I think Coach Tanner and Coach Toman, they were getting a lot of the right guys that just not only had the talent but had the grit, the determination, the it factor, the dog in them. And I just know that when I recruit, I look for those kind of things, and you don't always hit. Like I've had some teams that I didn't have enough guys on the team that I felt like had that dog in them or that were that it factor, and you got to have those guys to win. And the teams that we were successful with at South Carolina had some of those guys, and like I think of myself as that way. I don't think that maybe people back then thought of me that way because I was a highly touted recruit and I was supposed to be a first-round draft pick and all these things, but I looked at myself as a blue-collar player, and I didn't like the limelight very much. I kept my head down a lot when I played. I didn't interact with fans much when I played. I just, I kept my mask on and got back there behind the plate and did my job. And I tried to motivate my teammates and I tried to come through in big situations. And I wanted to freaking win. And it didn't matter, like the game's changing now, the NIL and the portal and the attention. And it's players are a little more concerned, I think, with their own marketability sometimes than they are with this team and this program and the fan base. Like, let's win it for these guys. So I don't know. When I think my teammates and I, we just had this, we were not going to lose mentality kind of about us. And we definitely didn't win it all, but we were always in the fight. It felt like.
Mm-hmm. Attitude, Coach Tanner told me one time, he said, unfortunately, sometimes you got to have guys on your roster that keep you up at night, but those guys also win you ball games. I think there's truth in that. I think there's a lot of truth.
Yeah,
in
Drew.
That.
I remember one time he said to me about Drew, or he might have. I'm sure he said it in front of Drew, but he said he loved the way Drew Meyer played baseball, and that he played hard and tough. The only problem is he also he lived the same way down at 5 Points on the weekends. Hard, he was hard in the alleys just like he was hitting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, it worked. Whatever it was, you weren't going to take him out of the lineup.
Have never been spoken.
Drew
didn't get cheated at the plate or at 5 Points.
No. That's right. He was gonna give it his all everywhere he was.
And he does that in every phase of life too. If you get Drew Meyer, you get all of them. Golf course. Last time I played golf with him, I was like, God, this guy hates losing.
I mean, he's one of the reasons we won. Yeah. I mean, a guy like Drew. I mean, he was a super talented player, was a first-round draft pick, and but go watch the way he played. Like he never finished a game and his uniform not be covered in dirt. Like he was not going to be clean when that game was over.
The ground ball against Florida.
Oh, the play at the middle, unbelievable play.
That's as good of a play from a college shortstop as I've seen.
Yep, no, unbelievable play, and he was always. I loved having him at short, being able to back pick to him and stuff like that. Like me and him, I could just make eye contact with him and like barely nod my head, just like a little nod. And he knew I'm getting ready to back kick. And as the pitch was coming to the plate, he'd be on the dead sprint to second base, sneaking behind that runner. We did it all the time. It was just there was a lot of gamemanship from the guys on the field back then. And, we had a connection. Our team was very we were very close. We weren't all best friends, but on the baseball field, like we were definitely one heartbeat kind of a team. So, and that stuff matters, and it's all attributed to Tanner and Toman and how they ran the program and, how we competed every day in practice. And, it's not just a recruiting game. It's not just a fundraising game. There's so many things to coaching. And I think the way that Tanner ran his practices and the way he competed every single day with us, I mean, he threw BP. And, if I got in there and hit BP one day and I wasn't like giving it my best, or if I wasn't really trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark, or I was going through the motions, he would stop BP and call me out and like make it competitive. And just having that edge all the time, like makes you comfortable when all of a sudden you're actually in the fire. It's like, oh, this is like, I'm in the fire every day in practice dealing with Coach Tanner. So what's the difference now in front of 20,000 fans? Like I'm already been here, done this.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I will say this. I think this is a misconception of Ray, because people know Ray as the guy who's so media savvy, who was involved in charity. And overall, if you met him, he's a very nice and likable person. But any great coach that I've covered, he's got some SOB in him. And I would say that if Ray was on this show. I remember we were at Ole Miss, and Kevin Malillo, a guy who, as you mentioned, had a cup of coffee in the bigs, was a pretty damn good player, part of 3 Omaha teams. He didn't make a great effort at a ball. I want to say it was a ground ball up the middle. I can't remember 100%. It wound up costing the team a couple runs. Carolina loses the game. That night, Ray says, I want to do the pregame interview for tomorrow early. It might be rain or something. Let's just do it now. I go back to the hotel room, and he's talking about Malillo. Now, he loves Malillo, the player, but Kevin had some talent. But he basically just told me, I'm gonna cut his ass if he doesn't play better tonight. And he knows it. Like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't need anybody big league and a ground ball out here. We're not that damn good, and he's not a good enough. Like, that's what Ray could do. He could scare the ever-living you-know-what's out of you if you didn't perform. So it's not about being all nice guy. Sometimes you got to be, and maybe, Landon, you know this, maybe you've had an experience with a few of your players. There's got to be a little a-hole in you from time to time. Am I right?
My players hate my guts right now. Trust me. Like we're going through it a little bit as a team right now. We've dropped some games lately that we shouldn't drop, and I'm on them. Like I am on them, and I'm as a coach. I mean, I'm still a younger coach. I mean, I've been doing this 10 years now, so I feel like I've got a lot of experience. But I'm only 42, So I'm sitting here asking myself, like, am I being too hard on them? Do I need to back up a little bit? Like, do I need to ease up? And my nature is not to ease up. My nature is just to keep going hard, and the cream's going to rise to the top. The tough ones are going to make it, and I've been hard on him here lately. So I channel a lot of Ray Tanner in what I do. It's funny to me, like when I got drafted and went on to pro ball and started going back around South Carolina, or just talking to Coach Tanner on the phone, or listening to other guys that played for him. He definitely changed. He softened up a lot, and I think probably having kids and the generational change of new players coming in and how they're not maybe the same as the old players. Tanner was always good at, adjusting to what he needed to do. That was why he was a good coach. I mean, he did that with the Bats when they won the national championship. I mean, he went from a guy that never bunted ever to, leading the SEC in bunts or whatever they did. So he knew how to adjust to get the most out of his team. And when I was playing, I mean, he was tough on us. He was hard on us. It was old school, hard-nosed baseball coach, and we feared him. I loved him, but I feared him,
Right.
And I know that in later years when Roth and Jackie Bradley and some of those guys played for him, he was a little different to them than he was to us, and it worked for them as well. So coaches have to kind of be a chameleon. They have to know their team and know, who and how to relate with each guy. And but yeah, my players are mad at me right now. I've been on them hard. I'm calling them soft. I'm challenging them every day. I'm telling them they don't have what it takes, and they're, the only reason I'm doing those things because I do believe they have what it takes, and I got to figure out how to get it out of them. They don't know what I know. They haven't seen what I've seen. They haven't been around as long as I've been around. They don't realize how capable they are. A lot of these kids, especially you're dealing with 19, 20-year-olds, like they're just figuring out whether or not they are a stud or not. They're figuring out whether they should be secure or insecure. I mean, it's not only in baseball but out of baseball. I mean, they're dealing with a lot in life right now, and my goal is to teach them that they actually can be a badass if they want to be, and they can be a stud. They can get that hit in a big situation. It doesn't matter. You can't fear failure if you're ever going to succeed. And I think there's kids out there that fear failing in a big situation, and there's kids that get in a big situation and they think this is my opportunity. Like I've been waiting for this opportunity right here. And that's who you have to find in recruiting right there. You have to find the kids that are not scared of failure in a big opportunity, but they are dying for that opportunity so that they can succeed. And I mean, that was how I was. I get in a big situation. Was I nervous? Yes. Was I excited? Yes. Because to me, it was like, this is an opportunity to make something big, and to, that's how you win. So, I hope South Carolina can turn it around and find the mojo. And, I think a lot of it starts with just getting the best players, and the SEC is full of stud players on every roster. So how are we going to get those guys? And, Tanner was a great coach, but Tanner also had, Drew Meyer and Jerome Peters and David Marchbanks. And, he had All-Americans at a lot of positions, Brian Busher, and go on and on. So it's the X's and O's matter, but those Jimmies and Joes usually don't let you down.
There's no question about that. And they need a lot of that. You've got Jimmies and Joes, and you got a chance to win a national championship again, Landon. We're going to be following along here in the postseason as y'all find out where you're going on Sunday. And then we'll give everybody details next week how folks can watch those games or maybe go see them if you're in that area and stuff like that too. But it's always great to catch up with you. We love having you here, and maybe we can get you on right before y'all play for the World Series here in the next couple of weeks. How's that sound?
I'd love to. Hopefully we can get hot. We got the pitching. Our pitching and defense is really good. We have a couple starters that were all conference. We had the conference freshman of the year again. We've had the conference freshman of the year now, I think 6 times in my 10 years coaching. So, a lot of the people out there that think that I do what I do just getting transfers, they don't understand. I mean, we've been bringing in the best freshmen. And the one we have now was 5A state pitcher of the year in South Carolina, Matty Brown from West Ashley High School in Charleston. He was 5A pitcher of the year in South Carolina, and, somehow fell through the cracks to me. And he's come down here and had a great freshman year, and he's like 10-0 or something with like a 2 ERA, and he threw a complete game in our first game of the conference tournament. He's a stud. So we got some really good arms. If we can go score 5 or 6 runs a game, I think we could make it to a World Series. So that's my goal the next 8 or 9 days, is get our offense locked in and get us scoring. And I believe in what we got. So we'll see what happens.
It's an offense that's hitting .320 on the season collectively this year with 69 home runs. Yeah.
Struggling.
Yeah, you got to be up around 350, Landon.
We're struggling. We were. I put a post out like late March or something like that on Twitter, and I jinxed us, I guess. But I think at the time we were hitting like right at 330, and we were top 10 in the country in almost every offensive category. I think we were first in the country in runs, which is, last I checked, the goal of the game.
That's the number. Yeah.
So if you got the most of those, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And I put that out, and then we have just tanked. Our offense has just really struggled to get consistent since then. I mean, we'll go score 15 one game and then 2 the next, and it's just like, who are we? I got a bunch of buddies that are former athletes, college athletes. One of them's a college basketball coach, and we were on a text thread. We text all the time, and I was texting how I don't like my offense. I was like, we're not hitting. I don't like the offense right now. We're not hitting. And then like 10 minutes later, he sent a text to the thread. It's like, this jerk, look at, he's saying he can't hit. Look at his team. They're hitting 330. They're first in the country in runs. I'm like, well, I mean, just trust me. All right. I'm telling you, we're not hitting. And then here we are, the last 10 games, we have struggled offensively, but we can pitch and play defense. So we're in every game. And we have, I think, 12 losses on the season. We're 43-12 or 44-12 or something like that. And we have 8 losses. 8 losses by 1 run. So of our 12 or 13 losses, we have 8 by 1 run. So we are a good team. We just haven't been able to win the one-run game, and I'm hoping we hit a couple more homers here in the postseason and make that, let's just win a bunch of games by 6 or 7 runs and not by 1 run.
Right. Let's just make this easy. Yeah.
Be ready. Be better for my blood pressure. So.
That's right. Yeah. Let's get to the ninth to be comfortable, gentlemen. Where's our closer? He needs to be asleep down there. We don't need to call him at the end of these things. Well, man, we can't wait. Really can't wait to follow along here. Great to see you. And
Thank you, Landon.
All the best to Allie and the kids and your family and your staff. And
what's Mike's under Mike's name? It says Landon Powell owns Cliff Hagan Stadium. What's that about?
Oh, you caught it. Thank you. Do you remember? I can't remember what year it was. I want to say 2004. We're out there, Cliff Hagan Stadium, as Jamie and I have often joked. I mean, that was like a prison yard venue. It was hardly an SEC caliber stadium. But you hit 3 home runs in your first 3 at bats. So yeah. TP and I are like, well, TP already had the him. Tom Price had he had it memorized. So every Gamecock that ever hit 3 and a chance to make history. The previous one
before that would have been Brian Jeffco
against Clemson.
He hit 3 against Clemson
at Kingsmore.
My freshman year.
That's right. I was there. So then I'm all excited that and you could tell you were going to get 5-6 ABs in this game. This was not going to be like a 3-2 type of game. So I'm thinking we got a chance to see history here. I almost got a chance to call a Kip Balknight no-hitter. And damn it, I wish you guys never pitched to Chris Burke. I still give Berkey a tough time because he broke it up in the 9th. And then almost got to call a Landon Powell 4 home run game, which I've never done at any level. I saw Bob Horner 4 in person at Fulton County for the Braves. And then I think they hit you.
All right, so JB, you got 1 minute for that story?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I'll give you the good story. All right, so we had mentioned earlier, my dad. I love my dad. I'm sure he'll listen to this and probably get mad at me, but I'm gonna tell it like it is, Dad, and I love you. So my dad was a coach, high school coach, Legion coach. He's in the Legion Hall of Fame. He's a great coach, and that's what helped me become a good player. But he was very tough on me, as Michael attests to.
Oh yeah.
He was very tough on me, and he would be in the crowd, and I could hear him from the crowd. He'd let me know it. But we're down in Athens, and on Friday night I went 5 for 5 with a homer, and had a great game, and we won the game Friday night. So we go out, everybody's happy, we're all having a good time. Dinner with him and my grandparents and my girlfriend, Allison, my wife, she was there with us. So then we go to Saturday's game, and in Saturday's game I go 0 for 4. I think with the hat trick. I think I struck out 3 times. And so after the game, my dad was so mad at me. He wouldn't even look at me. He was, and so we all decided to go to some pizza restaurant there in Athens, and we're all sitting down in there, and my dad's just in a bad mood. He's so unhappy with me, and I think the draft's coming up, and there's a lot of things, and so there's some stress. But he's like, "Why'd you take that 2-0 fastball? Or why did you take that 0-0 hanger? That's a pitch you should crush." And he was just questioning me about my hitting. And I was already in a bad mood because I had a bad game. And I think I said something, I said, "Listen, I know more about hitting than you do. Leave me alone," or something like that, which was not the right thing to say. And so he gets up and walks out. And my mom's like, "He'll be fine. Just let him cool off." And I'm like, "Well, I don't understand why he's always got to give me hitting advice. Just leave me alone, blah, blah, blah." Fathers and sons at that age. So we finish eating. He never comes back in the restaurant. We finish eating. And my grandparents pay, and we walk out to the parking lot. And my dad had driven down in a van, and all my grandparents, my mom, and my girlfriend had all ridden with him. And we get out of the parking lot, and we're looking for the van, and there's no van. It's gone. And we're like, "Did he leave?" So my mom's calling him on the phone, I guess. Well, it turns out he was upset. He was mad at me, and he left. He took the van and drove back to North Carolina. And he left my mom and my grandparents and everybody in Athens with no car. So he pieced. He was that mad at me. And so the next day was that Sunday game at Georgia. Is my last SEC regular season game. And it's the first game in my entire career that my dad wasn't there for. He had been to every game my whole career. He came to Wednesday night games against Wofford. He came to LSU. It didn't matter. He was at every game. And so for the first time in my entire career, he did not come to a game that I played in college, and that was Sunday against Georgia. My first at bat, I'm hitting, I think, left-handed, and I hit a homer. And then my next at bat, and I think even a couple of my teammates in the dugout were kind of joking with me because they knew my dad wasn't there. And so it was like, you couldn't hear him yelling in the stands and stuff like that, which he was, it's not like he yelled bad stuff all the time. He was a great fan. He knew the things to say a lot of times. He was really good at heckling umpires. But I hit a home run my first at bat. Then my second at bat, they put a lefty in, so they turned me around. I think I'm hitting right-handed my second at bat, and I hit a homer right-handed. And then I come up my third at bat, and they turn me back around. I'm hitting left-handed again, and I hit another homer. So now I'm 3 for 3 with 3 homers, 2 left-handed, 1 right-handed. And I'm realizing, like, maybe, when your dad's hard on you all the time, like, you always kind of feel that pressure, like, I got to do good with him here. And that day, for whatever reason, I knew he wasn't there, and I was kind of playing, like, carefree maybe, or I just don't, whatever. And I was just letting it rip. And so I had 3 homers on first 3 bats. I get up my fourth at bat, and, I'm the ball looks like a beach ball. And they throw the first pitch right down the middle to me. And I hit one 400 feet, 10 feet foul, up by that house that used to sit down the right field line, that house up on the hill. I hit one up in that. I hit one up in that yard, foul. And I hit it farther than the other 3 homers I hit, but I just hit it. I just yanked it foul. And immediately Perno, who I think was the head coach at Georgia at that time, he steps, hey, he starts waving. Hey, put him on. And they intentionally walked me.
Yep.
And then and I got up one more time, and they intentionally walked me my last at bat. So I ended the game 3 for 3 with 2 intentional walks, and I almost hit a 4th homer my 4th at bat. I just hit it foul. So that was the only game my dad never came to in my college career.
Wow, I did not know that aspect of the story. That's amazing.
And I never missed a game after that, did he?
Oh gosh, he was everywhere. And you're right. I could hear. I knew your dad's voice. So when your dad was yelling, I said, "That's Mr. Powell." I mean, I knew it was almost always first base side, and he was letting umpires have it, and sometimes he'd let you have it. The other one I was thinking of at Kentucky, you hit a ball I still don't think has landed. You were hitting lefty, you pulled it over the porch and right, and onto the practice football fields back when their stadium was there. I don't know if that was the farthest ball you ever hit, but had to be one of them because that thing was absolutely clobbered.
I remember when I think Kentucky, I think Joe Blanton, who was like, who I played with him in the first round. I played with him in the big leagues, but Joe was like dominating the SEC that year. We go play at Kentucky, and Toman, all he kept talking about was like, boys, just go ahead and just go up and chalk up a loss for Friday. We're not winning Friday. You can't hit this pitcher. No one's touched him all year. Yep. Like, y'all got 0 shot against this guy. And he was like, just ribbing us the whole week.
First pitch, Drew Meyer.
First pitch of the game, Drew Meyer hits a bomb, way out. And we were like, and we put it on him. I think we knocked Blanton out in the 3rd inning or something like that. So, yeah, that's what I remember when I think about Kentucky. I don't know the farthest ball. So, in about 10 minutes here, Daniel Bard's getting ready to come throw on the field here at North Greenville. He's rehabbing his arm, trying to get back to the big leagues.
Is he really?
Yeah,
wow.
he's making one more comeback. He was already Major League Comeback Player of the Year, but he's actually out there throwing right now. I see him, and him and a guy named David Hess, who was a starting pitcher for the Orioles in the big leagues. They're both rehabbing, trying to get back in the game. And so I have to remind Bard sometimes. I hit 2 homers in a regional or super regional against UNC. Yep. One of them against Bard and one of them against Andrew Miller.
2 first rounders.
The one against Miller was way back. I mean, it was way back. It was on the softball field at South Carolina.
Yeah.
It was a way back one. So that one went real far. And then the other one that I remember that was a bomb was I hit one off of Luke Hochinger at South Carolina.
Tennessee.
And they say that one went on the railroad tracks, but I mean, that's a long ways back there. So I'd have a hard time believing that maybe. But the reason those are the farthest ones against those guys is because they all threw 95.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you face a guy throwing 95 and you square it up, it's just going to go a long ways. So
the one that you hit on the softball field, I was at that game. Obviously, Mike was calling the game, so I remember. There's a video of that somewhere on YouTube. You can find that I remember when you hit the ball. And if you watch the video, you'll see at the very end of it, there was a guy. You remember how people used to stand up on the top of the
on
softball field,
the top of the softball fields, yeah,
and watch. Yeah, there was a guy who was up there watching the game, and the ball went over his head. So it landed out by the pitcher's mound on the softball field. The ball, and what a lot of people don't realize is behind that left field wall, there used to be the cages, and you had that net to protect the softball field. That went over all that.
Yeah.
And so it went on to the softball field. But the guy, I would love to, maybe this guy watches, maybe he'll call us. The guy who it went over his head, and he fell down the steps trying to go get the ball. And remember, those were concrete.
Yeah,
that was a concrete stadium. I don't know if the guy was okay, but he turned around to go get it, and then he just saw it fall out. He was gone,
disappear.
He did. So I don't. You might have injured this cat. I'm not sure, but that ball had to go 450 feet. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that was one of the longer ones. I had a little more power right-handed, so when I got a hold of one right-handed, it usually went a little farther. But it helped that Andrew Miller was throwing that. It was probably a 96-mile-per-hour fastball, so that probably helped.
Yeah.
So,
how good a hitter was Steve Pierce?
He was awesome. I mean, he was a great hitter. I still keep up with Pierce. We talk a good bit. Not that often, but like we'll shoot a text back and forth here and there. But he was a great hitter. The thing I loved about Pierce as a hitter is me and him could not have been more opposite. Right. I was a very intellectual hitter. I was up there like guessing pitches and thinking about how this guy pitched me last at bat and how he set me up. Pierce was just the opposite of that. I mean, I batted fourth, he batted third, so he'd be on the on-deck circle all the time. And I'd be in the hole, like, sitting there, and, he'd be, like, looking up in the crowds, like, hey, you waving, hey, what's up, yeah, not even watching the pitcher, could care less what the pitcher's throwing. And then, like, the hitter, like, Malilla would get out. I'm like, hey, Pierce, hey, you're up. He's like, oh, yeah, and he'd, like, go up to the box, and then he'd just swing first pitch and hit a homer, and it's like, come back to the dugout. I'm like, hey, what pitch was that? He's like, well, I don't know. I don't know what that was. I'm like, was that a slider or a fastball? He goes, I don't know. He was just like, he was a natural born hitter. He could just see ball, hit ball. And some of the best hitters I've ever played with are like that. They don't think, and some of the guys that are really smart, they overthink and they get themselves out. Hitting is a very hard thing to do, and it's a very mental thing to do. So if you don't really think too much into it, you can have more success sometimes. And Steve Pierce is a good example of that. Now, I'm sure when he got to professional baseball and became the professional hitter he did, I'm sure he had a way higher intellectual a game in the box and a good approach. But back in college, I mean, he was just see ball, hit ball.
I don't remember who told me this story. It might have been Andrew Cruz. I'm not sure, but I remember hearing about it at South Carolina that he got when he got drafted by the Pirates. He got the call. He was floating on the river in Columbia. I don't know if you know this or not, or if either one of you know this story, but he was apparently floating on the river. And of course, back then we had flip phones, right? So, hello, Steve, this is so-and-so from the Pirates. We've selected you. And I can't remember what round he went in now. Of the Major League Baseball draft. Congratulations. And his response was, congratulations to you. You just got the steal of the draft. and then that was pretty much it. He was like, I'm on the river. I'll have to call you back, and hung up the phone. And I thought,
JUCO Bandit, man. Those JUCO Bandits, they were cut from a different cloth. He was a good one, though.
Oh, yeah.
Tire world.
Not a lot going on between here, but he could hit it.
Every road trip, he would bring 3 movies: Major League 1, Major League 2, and Major League 3. He would laugh hysterically at every movie as if he saw it the first time. And the few times that we got to fly, because we were the kings of the long bus ride. These kids now are pampered, Landon. They take charter flights, for crying out loud. They don't know 10-hour bus rides. But he was the kid. Well, we'd get on an airplane and we'd fly commercial most of the time, but there'd be a flight attendant and, they're giving the instructions, and it's serious to them. We get it. The seatbelt, the seats need to be upright, but for them, it's very serious. You get FAA regulations. And at the most awkward times, you would hear there's Steve Pierce in row 34, seat B. When it was the most quiet moment in the middle of the instructions, he would just go, entire world, which is the impersonation of Lou Brown of Major League. And the whole team would just crack up laughing. But for Steve Pierce, that was high-level comedy, was just to read that.
That was normal.
To say that.
Yeah.
Man, isn't it a shame they don't take bus rides anymore? I mean, I feel like I've been on a bus all year this year with my team. I think we only played 19 home games this year. We played like 30-something road games.
31. I saw that. That's crazy.
And a poor scheduling by the head coach for sure.
Yeah.
But
challenge.
Man, it's just something about a bus ride with your team. You know, it's like such a camaraderie builder, and you know, I think about our bus rides at South Carolina. Those are some of my favorite moments. I mean, I love playing and dogpiling and some of those things, but man, those bus rides are really where the memories happen. And you got a bunch of guys in the back of the bus playing AC Doocy or you know, Follow the Queen, you know, stuff like that with $1 bills and stopping at J&S cafeterias or whatever Coach Tanner always liked to stop at, those horrible cafeterias that he would make us eat lunches at.
I'm surprised you guys were able to survive with malnutrition with the crap that everybody ate on the road.
Oh man, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I understand now as a coach, it's like it's hard to take 40 people to go eat somewhere. Yeah. Like, where do you take them and sit down and actually get a meal in a timely manner and get out of there? So he would always take us to the cafeterias, wherever, like those J&S kind of places, and we would all complain as soon as we pulled the bus off the road. Like, as soon as we saw where we're going, everybody on the bus would just start complaining.
Dude,
not another cafeteria? Are you kidding me?
When I was in JUCO, we got $7 a meal, and everything we went to was like Denny's or Ryan's. $7.
And that's D2 life. That's what we're doing now. I mean, that's the D2 world we're living in right now. These guys now it's like $10 a meal that they get at D2, and you can barely get something at McDonald's for $10.
No, you can't.
These SEC boys are living a different life. I mean, they're eating
life.
Steak and lobster after every game. They got smoothies made for them in the third inning, and you know, I had Brainerd Cooper like give me an ammonia towel. I thought I was a king at the time, you know, like getting ammonia towels in between innings. These guys are getting smoothies handmade for them,
right?
You know,
no pitching lab at the Sarge. Is that what you're saying, Landon? No.
Yeah, no. We had the pit. You know, we had the pit that Coach Tobin used to abuse us with baseballs. We take all the waterlogged baseballs and we throw them down in the catcher's pit, and he'd turn on a machine throwing 120 and just shoot them and try to hurt us the whole time. Yeah. And, you know, just yell at us if we didn't block it right. And you take a waterlogged baseball off the collarbone, you know, it's that was a Monday. That was a Monday afternoon. So
Dude.
Different era of baseball back then. And I loved it. I wouldn't change a thing about my career, about my coaching staffs that coached me, about my teammates. I loved every second of it. And I love the garnet and black. I don't spend much time in Columbia anymore. I spend it all up here in Greenville, and I love coaching still, but I will always be a Gamecock, and I will always bleed garnet. So
that's what we call a mic drop. Landon,
that's right.
That's awesome. Hey, really thank you for the kind words at the beginning, and I hope you and I can actually, I know you and Jamie have had the opportunity to do so, but if you're ever in Atlanta for some reason, maybe recruiting a kid, let me know, and I'll certainly let you know next time I'm in Greenville.
For sure. It was a good surprise, JB, to get on here and see Mike Morgan. I appreciate you doing that for me. I love seeing Mike. And
right back at you.
You're a true pro, Mike, so we'll see you around.
No, I appreciate it, Landon. Thank you much. Congrats and good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, go get them. We can't wait to see where y'all end up. We'll be watching on Sunday. And congratulations, Landon.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great one.
Thanks, bud.
See you, man.
There you go. You know you're good when you go by just your initials, LP. Yes. Landon Powell, who, in my humble opinion, and that of thousands more, is the greatest ever put the gear on at South Carolina.